guys, I'm back with another 10 metal bands you haven't heard but should. Got a nice mix of stuff here, some mainly Black and Death as usual, but it's going to be some interesting stuff. This video is a bit later than I intended it to be, just because stuff took however long it took to arrive, but first up, some really ancient, mystical black metal in the form of Oldlands, really old school sounding stuff. This was released on Ancient Entity Records, who will be doing the cassette version of the Garden of Eyes EP Arcane Haze. While on the subject of Garden of Eyes, there's also a new demo out called Fetid, Rotted, Cursed, coming out on Necrolatry, so if you want to hear my death metal stuff, go to Ancient Entity or Necrolatry Records for the old EP and the new demo. Anyway, Oldlands play some really old school black metal. It's primitive, it's raw, it's aggressive, but there's plenty of atmosphere, skilled musicianship, and just a really dark, very magical kind of feel to it. Not too different to Mystifier back in the day, I guess, but yeah, definitely an interesting release. I really enjoyed this one, so check that one out. This one hopefully will aid a lot of people, as I see constant things saying, can you recommend a band like Obituary? And the most common answer, I guess, to give would be Master. This is a slightly less obvious one with Abyssus. This is on Memento Mori Records. Definitely very strong Obituary, Bolt Thrower, Early Death, those kinds of bands. Classic death metal influencing this. You don't see so much of that kind of old school death metal. It's generally more geared towards the slower kind of stuff. But no, this is really kind of thrashy. Definitely some Possessed coming through on here, actually. That's a band I forgot to mention, but it's really cool. Sounds like it's straight out of the late 80s, early 90s US, stroke some European countries' death metal scenes. Abyssus, I don't think I've seen anyone else talk about or even post. That might be my ignorance, or because this release came out 5 years ago. That's longer ago than I thought. Anyway, Abyssus are really good if you dig that kind of classic death metal. On the old death metal train, we have Ulcerot here. It's a super group featuring members of Undergang, Deacquisitor, Pissgrave. I think that's everything off the top of my head. They're all in a bunch of bands anyway, but Ulcerot, I'm going with Ulcerot like an ulcer. This is the debut demo Necuratu, brilliant English there, on Meisako Onojo Records for the 7-inch, and Extremely Rotten, of course, for the cassette tape. Really filthy old school death metal with plenty of grindcore influence in there as well. You know, if you imagine what Undergang, Pissgrave and Deacquisitor would make, this is pretty much it. It's filthy, it's got really good riffs, it's guttural, it's abrasive, it's just really harsh, scathing death metal. And it's a fucking good first start for a band. Definitely a demo I think a lot of people will rank quite highly this year. To the other side of things, some super atmospheric black metal. The new album from Faustian Pact. If I can get that without glare, that would be fantastic. There we go. On Werewolf Records, Finnish, of course. The band are also Finnish. Really good ambient, atmospheric black metal. If you like stuff, I guess, like Guardscaster, that very medieval, but still, like, the synths are very dungeon synthy, but there's still riffs to it. It's not just completely reliant on the synths. That's what I really like when you hear that kind of ambient black metal. Faustian Pact really deliver. Great riffs, good drums, good vocals, really good synths. I personally think this is one of the better ambient black metal releases of the last couple of years. It's definitely very haunting and spectral and eerie, and it's actually quite pretty. It's very enjoyable to listen to. So definitely check those guys out if you fancy something a bit more atmospheric. Next up, another Meisako Onojo release. This is 2 bands for the price of 1, Axeslaughter and Sonic Poison. This is their brand new split 7-inch. With Axeslaughter you get much more kind of thrashy, grindy death, and with Sonic Poison you get some still in that vein but slightly more blackened and unhinged kind of death metal, but overall it just makes some really horrible, unnerving, disturbing death metal from both bands, and they both do a really killer job. All the tracks, you get 2 tracks from Axeslaughter and 3 from Sonic Poison. They'll work really well together and cohesively as a good split will. It is just really enjoyable, so definitely check out Axeslaughter and Sonic Poison. Next up, something a bit different. This is some Blackened Speed / Blackened Thrash. Reaper with Unholy Nordic Noise. If you dig bands like Bone Hunter, Hell Ripper, all those kinds of fun, like over-the-top, thrashy, speedy, blackened, fast bands with catchy riffs, anthemic vocals, all that good, like, ripping fast stuff. Diabolic Night will be another one. Reaper are awesome. This is on Iron Bonehead. Of course, this is the LP version. I think this album, when I reviewed it, I was like, everyone's going to be talking about this one, and I haven't seen as much as I thought, so hopefully momentum picks up for this release, because I definitely think all the Blackened Speed metal lovers out there will adore this album. It's super catchy. It's about 26-28 minutes, over in a flash, but it's fast, no bullshit, good stuff. Wraith, another band that are in this alley. Just, yeah, like I say, no bullshit, fast to the point, good black thrash, as you want it to be. Next up, we have a Maggot Stomp release for the first time in a while, which is a shame because I love that label. It's just hard to get their stuff in Europe at this point in time, especially in the UK. But we have Abraded with their Descendants of the Swamp. Really, as you'd expect, swampy, slightly grindy, crusty death metal. Really, you know, murky production, thuddy drums and bass, pulverizing guitars, vomity kind of vocals. It's all that kind of good stuff. It sounds like how the artwork looks, and that's what I like. It's also on Aggressively Uninterested. I forget, I just realised that, as well as Maggot Stomp. But yeah, really putrid, filthy, good death metal that's very stompy indeed. And next up, I'm just going to pull these last few bits a bit closer. This release completely blew me away. It is Nawaharjan, or Nawaharjan, however you want to say that. Lockbrenner is German black metal influenced by Germanic, and I mean, through the links, I guess you could say Norse paganism too. There's obviously quite a lot in common between the two. It's got a stunning booklet. I don't always pick the releases apart, but this really did sort of impress me how good this looks. This is on Amalfati Productions, again one of the leading black metal labels. Really interesting concept, probably my favourite concept for a record in quite some time, which is about the breaking of Sinmara's 9 locks. If you're familiar with that, it's sort of a, I guess you could say like a parable or something of self-strength and conquering your own battles and stuff, and it's a really prevalent story in Germanic mythology and beliefs that you don't actually hear so much about. I mean, there's the band Sinmara, of course, but yeah, really interesting, great music as well, very strong, dissonant black metal with howled vocals. A lot of them kind of like quite Bolzer type vocals that I really like, where it's almost like a yell that cracks out. It sounds really cool. Massive production, big boomy drums, horrible riffs. It's really tortured. It's nearly an hour long, and it's definitely an experience. You give it all your attention and it rewards you for it. Stunning album, and definitely one not to forget or sleep on. Next up, we have some Death Doom, well, just some weird fucking death metal, really, from Iron Bonehead. I mentioned them before, of course, in this video. We have Worm, who used to be a black metal band, but now play Death Doom. This is the tape of their new album, Gloomlord. It's messed up. It's not like just slow death metal, Death Doom. It's dissonant. It's got some quite interesting experimentation on it. It's definitely got some more abrasive parts, and it's just evil, murky, weird death metal, and I really like it. Yeah, like I said, there used to be a black metal band, and there's definitely, from the transference between Black to Death, gonna be some influence from playing black metal previously. I mean, as someone who does black and death metal, I definitely influence my black metal bands with my death metal ones and vice versa. It's impossible not to if you enjoy another music style, especially if you play it. And one, definitely, that pays off for them. It's some really weird, unsettling, I think is the best way to describe this album. It's 5 tracks, really good death doom, absolutely crushing. Listen to that if you want to submit to total obliteration. And finally, I haven't had a war metal thing in this video, I don't think. That's how good my memory is. Blasphamagoatachrist, this is their first demo, Black Metal Warfare. I've wanted this for ages, and I just finally got it from Toad Stripe Records here in the UK after it being sold out, I believe. Featuring members, of course, the vocalist from Blasphemy, 2 members of Goat Penis, and 1 member of Antichrist, I believe I'm remembering that right. It's war metal, it's abrasive, it's fast, there's some nice thrashy and doomy riffs that creep in on this, but overall, it's just in your face, balls to the wall, extreme metal, the way of the late 80s South American and Canadian bands that crept obviously into the 90s, and it's just really bombastic, in your face, pure malevolence, and it's killer. I recently reviewed their debut full length, this is just the demo. That's also killer, so I'm really looking forward to that coming out. And that concludes this video. Been a nice balance of stuff. I hope there's been something either new or, you know, if you already know all this stuff, kudos, you know your stuff. If not, check it out, enjoy, support the bands and labels, and thank you for watching. I will be back with my next one when I've bought more records, as per usual. Until next time, stay metal.